all chief directors, colleagues from senior management, and colleagues from districts. Yes, I've got to say, let's observe protocol in that regard. I come from Uthugela. Uthugela is part of the 12 districts in KZN. We work with this gentleman and the Queen. We call him the Lion. In order for us to survive, I think, I'm not too sure about your outing, where it's going to. But if you are going to go to the game reserve, I was going to say, in our operations, resembling the game reserve, you know, there are antelopes. And if the antelope needs to survive, you know what it must do, ne? It must run faster than the lion. Then the lion is not going to get the antelope. So in order for us to make sure that the lion doesn't roll close to us, we must make sure that as districts, we do our work. We've got this structure called Provincial Examination and Assessment Committee, which is a structure, Dr. Polia, National cannot, or DPE cannot be here in my district and implement activities. This is the legal structure that we have in the province, and a structure that implements policy that comes from DPE. All 12 CSs come down here, and we implement what we have given Director Mkhize and Dr. Peniston. In that structure, we have a subcommittee. But before I talk about this subcommittee, when we meet at PEXEMCO, our main focus is at strategic level. When we discuss issues at a strategic level so that we don't become trivial in issues that we're discussing. But in order for us to do that, we have a structure that is called the District Heads of Examination Committee. This structure is a subcommittee of PEXEMCO. It reports to PEXEMCO. It doesn't take decisions. It can recommend, but decisions are taken at PEXEMCO. The invitation to this meeting is facilitated by the Chief Director. So this structure reports to the PEXEMCO meeting. So we meet to deliberate as 12 districts. Decisions taken are only effective once Dr. Peniston and Mama Mkhize called the PEXEMCO meeting to ratify what was discussed at the head of exams. We meet often, but we try to meet quarterly. But at times, we are compelled by the project or the activity that we are handling to meet. For example, Dr. Peniston may come with a topic from National and say, there are so many learners that are doing the 8th subject in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, because we need to make sure, like what Dr. Paula used to say, we want to make sure that there's a McDonald's approach. What we do, we then go back to this structure, and then each and every district will then explain its situation. And then we take that back to the PEXEMCO meeting for a decision. What is it that we do when we are together? This is a developmental structure of the CSs. It's a structure that gives us the opportunity to talk about even the smallest nitty-gritty in exams. It's a structure that gives us the opportunity to be operational when we're doing our discussions. It's a structure where we share ideas and strategies in terms of the management of examination projects. We try our level best to synergize operations at district level. We look at developing policy guidelines. We are also reviewing provincial programs with a view of improving identified gaps. That's what we do when we are in this structure. One of the things that the CSs also do is to go and audit marking centers that we have in the province, just to make sure that the marking center is fully compliant in terms of the requirements of administering the marking center. Let me briefly indicate how we do e-registration. I want to say to you colleagues that when we do registration, we do registration in collaboration with the planning section, the AMIS. We have our meetings where we discuss and we sit with principals and we explain what is it that we need and how we want to do it. We also want to make sure that in AMIS, we allow schools to also get involved. Then we use our statistics after the 10 days, and we use the relevant modules, the 3.11 and the 3.17, where we register the learners. Thereafter, we've got a schedule, and then schools print out the schedule of learners that comes to exams. That's what we use for the verification of registration at a district level. Then the MS section will then take the data and upload it to the district warehouse. After that, it will then be sent to a province. A province will then print preliminary schedules. The preliminary schedules that we get from province are not going to schools. They come to us as districts. And as districts, we look at all the registration data that we have. At that point, we will have collected all the supporting documents and keep the data with us, so that when we get the prelims from province, we then sit down learner by learner, school by school, and then correct e-registration. After that, we take amendments and we forward to province without the first prelim going to schools. That's what we do. And we get it right when we do it that way. The second prelim, after all the amendments have been captured, is the one that will go to schools, where then the principals and his management team will then do the corrections and then return the second prelim to the district. The district will then do the necessary amendments. After that, we then forward to province. Okay? What we also do in the province, we try our level best, and we are succeeding in ensuring that we don't get or allow learners that are not registered to write the examination. How do we do that? The prelims are the first option that we have. The other one, there is the CAT that we write for life orientation in September. So when that comes, we use 3 3 or 4 days around that period to make sure that we finalize our registration. So all the gaps that might have been there, we're able to close them by ensuring that we look at if there are omissions, we check on the omissions if there are any. We look at the wrong subjects if there might have been. Then we correct it in the 4 days. And we send it to province for capturing. Province will then capture that, and once that is done, we know that it assists us in the elimination of the unregistered cases. So what we then do, we then request province to print mark sheets that we call them the refresher mark sheets. These mark sheets are then printed out of this process that was done after writing live CAT. Then we know that all the unregistered cases have been attended and have been sorted. So that's what we do in KZN. Because we believe that if we have the correct registration, then resulting is also going to be correct. If our registration is not correct, then we'll have problems with resulting. So that's what we do when we deal with registration. So all these processes are helping us as a province to ensure that all candidates are registered. So we then take the refresher mark sheets and then we attach to the relevant scripts. So that by the time the trucks take scripts to the marking center, all our candidates are registered. And all our candidates appear on the written mark sheets. The second aspect that we want to talk about is how do we get the recommended or the selected markers correct as a province. At the beginning of the year, we issue out a circular that goes out to schools. The circular is then given back to the district. Like this year, we got it back on the 10th of March because the closing date was the 28th. And then we allow schools to do their own verification at school level. The SMT, the principal, as well as the organized labor at a school level. They do the verification process. They check that the form is complete and the educator is teaching the correct subject, and then it's fine. Then we close, then we take that and it comes to province. Okay? Province will then do the selection with the selection teams or selection panels. Once selection is done, all the other processes will be involved, the checking, the verification, and the ratification. So what then comes to us at district level are recommended markers, not appointed markers, because appointed markers will only come when we have when province issues appointment letters. So what then happens is that province give us a schedule of recommended markers. We then look at the schedule of recommended markers in terms of the following. What we do at the beginning of the year, subject advisors hold orientation meetings with educators. Then they know who's teaching which subject. Then there is a register. We take that, we keep it as exams. At the beginning of Feb, we send a data sheet to schools and specifically to principals, where we get data on who is teaching which subject at what grade, grade 10, 11, and 12. So that we're not going to have a grade 10 educator appointed as a grade 12 educator. Okay? So we do this collaboratively with other sections in the district TLS is 1, HR is 1. We also get a list on a quarterly basis of all educators that are exiting the system. Why do you do that? So that you are not going to give a person that has resigned an appointment letter. So we have the data on colleagues that have retired, data that on colleagues that have resigned. We also have data on colleagues that would have been transferred to other provinces. We also go to the leave section. The leave section is going to provide us with data of who is on leave, sick leave, long sick leave, or maternity leave. Then we keep those records. So when this schedule comes, it's then that we look at the recommended markers. Then we say, Khanyile is retired. Khanyile has resigned. Or Khanyile is on maternity leave. If Khanyile is a female, that is. Okay? So what we then do, all those recommended markers that tick the boxes of the categories that I've mentioned, we then put them aside, compile a list of them, send to province so that those people don't go to the marking center or don't get appointment letters. Province is then going to remove those people from the data of appointed markers. Then we know that the people that go to the marking center are those people that are teaching grade 12, are those people that are correctly having the qualifications in the subject. So it is helping us, and we are winning when it comes to that. The last aspect that I just want to talk about is how we manage SBA in the province. Again, colleagues, this is done collaboratively with curriculum, EMIS, and exams. At the beginning of the year, curriculum will have orientation meetings, as I alluded earlier on. We will then have a situation where curriculum is going to give a program of assessment per subject, indicating what needs to be done, when and how. From there, SBA is going to be moderated per term by subject advisors. TLS and exams, should any of the problems emerge, we will then attend to that. Okay? We'll then attend to that. Subject advisors ensure that educators stick to the basics in terms of the topics and tasks stipulated. Okay? As a province, we conduct orals, practicals, and SBA moderation, again in the third term. The final SBA moderation is done around September and October. Then we have mark sheets coming from province after registration has been done and completed. Then we get SBA mark sheets. Then we complete them, Dr. Polia. We make sure that all our SBAs are sent to province, captured before we leave for marking centers. The reason why we do that is that we don't want to mix the task that we have. At marking center, the focus is marking center. At district, the focus is on district functions. That's what we do. I've just given you what one of the districts is currently doing. This is what is happening. Subjects are being moderated as we speak, but because as a province, we have been given different dates to advocate GEC in this district. The 20th is reserved for 2 items. One is the advocacy of general education certificate to all district officials, and secondly is the training date for district monitors for May-June examinations. Okay? So after this, then TLS will then show red lights where it needs to. We will then sit down and go and visit those schools to make sure that we sort out all those problems. So these 3 activities that you are just highlighting here are indicating to the House how we operate. And mind you, all these things that we do through our sitting at Pexemco level. And that is where I would like to end. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.